Hey, blessed ambassadors, welcome to today's edition of What's on My Mind? Copyright trademark, and here we go. Hey, here's a conundrum I've run into. You know, your fingers have tips, but your toes don't have tips. Yet you can tip toe, but you can't tip finger. I know. Anyway, moving on. Okay. You know, I like to read. I really like to read a lot. And I read, of course, the Bible. Ding! But I also read fiction, nonfiction, biographies, science papers, things like that. I just like to read. I like to learn. And I've learned that in every story, there's a pivot point. There's something that happens in the timeline of that story that changes the outcome, right? I'm sure you have a pivot point that you can point to, or several pivot points. I know I do. And this ministry, Pastor Prince's ministry, is certainly one of those pivot points that we can point to and say, yeah, my life changed when I heard the true gospel, right? When I heard about grace. I was listening to the Bible the other day, and I heard one of those pivot points. But ambassadors, it was one of the most consequential pivot points in the history of everything, in the history of mankind, in the history of the universe, in the history of the world, right? So I pictured it this way, that from the beginning of time, when God first created time, up until that moment, everything, all of creation was waiting for that moment. And then what has happened from that moment onward, and of course you and I are in that moment onward. Okay, I won't keep you in suspense anymore, but here it is. One of the most consequential words ever spoken were these. And it's in John 1:29. Behold, the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. Right? So think about that. Up until that point, there was nothing that could permanently erase your sin or my sin from the world. Right? Every year they would have to sacrifice bulls and goats and have a temporary reprieve. But then from that point on, all of creation could be forgiven as they behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. So here's my encouragement to you, and here's my encouragement to me. What are you going through today? What's going on in your life? Is it great? I hope it is. Are there challenges? Probably. Are there some real issues, some real problems? Probably, right? But whatever it is, ambassadors, and let me take a time out just to say, I love this ministry because we know, right, that as we behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world, as we behold Jesus, that we're accepted, right? That we're loved, that he wants us to behold him, to come freely to him for whatever it is that's going on with you, what's going on with me. And he always does this. Come. Right? He's never like, whoa, you already came to me last month, so take a hike. Right? It's never this, it's always this. Come. So here's my encouragement to you. And here's what I'm praying you'll experience this week. What's going on with you? What's going on, whether with your body or with your mind or with your finances or with your family, whatever it is, I want to encourage you, beloved ambassadors, behold the Lamb of God who heals you. Behold the Lamb of God who prospers you. Behold the Lamb of God who gives you rest. Behold the Lamb of God who gives you peace that surpasses understanding. Right? I think you're catching on now, right? Yeah. Whatever's going on with you, behold the Lamb of God. And in this ministry, it really is quite easy. All we have to do is call up any one of Pastor's messages, because he's always pointing to Jesus. He's always helping us to behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. So that's my encouragement to you, because that's what I was encouraged this week, and believe me, this week was a week of beholding quite a bit. So I pray that's what goes on with you, right? That you behold the Lamb of God. And we know that as we continue to behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world, our lives will change. Your life has changed because of it. My life certainly has. And your life will continue to change because of it. All right? So ambassadors, behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. Not your problems, not your issues, not your defeats or your valleys or your mountaintops. And they're real. Without a doubt, they're real. But I promise you, He is greater. Right? His grace is greater. So behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. All right? All right. I love you guys. Be blessed. And I'll probably see you next week. Love you. Bye-bye.